everyone, and welcome back to Revolution 2020. We got a great panel here to talk about fast data. Let's find out what that means and what it means for your business. Daniel Mintz is here. He's the Chief Data Evangelist at Looker. Guy Levy-Yurista is the Chief Strategy Officer at Sisense, and Anthony Brooks Williams is here. He's the CEO of HVR. Anthony, good to see you again. Guys, thanks for coming to theCUBE.
Hi, Dave. It's a pleasure. Great to be here.
All right, so look, we have all this data coming in from inside the company, outside the enterprise, and we need to move it. We need to ingest it, clean it. We got to tag it with metadata. We have to analyze it, visualize it, get it to the business who has to consume it. And then maybe you're going to move it somewhere else. You got to protect it. And you're all intimately familiar with and involved in this, what I sometimes call this life cycle of turning raw data into insights. Guy, let me start with you, because you got the strategy gene in your DNA and your title, not that your other guys don't, but is this a reasonably accurate description of what I sometimes call a data pipeline? And if so, how does it fit into an organization's data and digital strategy?
So first of all, thank you for having me. This is definitely a strategic question, and we're seeing the trends in the market and where it's headed. It is about the data value chain, how you take a lot of data and get it through the system to the other side to get a lot more value out of it. And it's about connecting to the data, moving it in a fast way to allow the users to derive it in a fast manner and infuse those insights everywhere. So definitely a strategic shift over the past few years, and SingleStore is driving that move into fast and powerful insights for sure.
Great. Yeah, we're going to talk about that some more. Anthony, let me come to you. You and I have talked about this in the past. Your job is kind of move the data very quickly and efficiently. Yep. You got to keep it in sync. Otherwise I'm going to lose my mind trying to deal with the data quality problems and consistency issues. But explain where you fit into this data pipeline.
Yeah, so as we're talking about, it's about moving data in the most efficient way across these networks. So we have a unique ability to go capture this data and send it across a network. We know that data is the lifeblood of these organizations today. So through us, we're able to capture this data in a very efficient way, move it across, and have it ready for immediate consumption. And so people can make decisions on the freshest data in something like SingleStore.
Right. Okay, finally, let's bring in Daniel to the conversation. Looker, now part of Google Cloud, but you of course work with other cloud service providers, and you work on premise. How do you see the data landscape changing for enterprises in the next couple of years? What can they do to exploit these changes for their advantage? What's your viewpoint?
Yeah, I think we've seen increases in the volume of data that I'm dealing with, which you brought up. We've seen increases in the variety of data that they're dealing with. Just the data is not of one kind anymore. It's structured data, it's semi-structured data, it's data that's being entered by humans, it's data that's being logged by machines. And then the velocity of data is increasing, and the way that architecting on top of the database that the company is putting their data in. And so Looker sitting on top of something like SingleStore is really an amazing combo, because SingleStore's ability to keep the data latency to an absolute minimum means that what you're looking at is really an accurate reflection of what's happening in the enterprise right now. And that fundamentally changes the kinds of decisions that people can make using the data. It's not just about looking at what happened yesterday or last week. It's about looking at what's happening right now and making better decisions with that data.
Well, let's talk about this a little bit more, because the other trend we see in the market, and it's, by the way, it's not universal. There's kind of two schools of thought on this, is the technology is converging, where you're seeing operational and analytic databases coming together into a single data store and capable of handling multiple types of workloads, like you're saying, the variety. And so this is where, the SingleStore partner relationship, if I understand it, comes to the table. Can maybe start with Daniel, and others can chime in. Can you address that?
Yeah, I think the reality is that most enterprises, to get real value from their data, need to be doing both things, right? They need to be doing analysis on historical trends, on what has been happening, but then they need to be looking at that side by side with the what's happening right now. We've got a great partner in SingleStore, and the customer Shutterfly uses Looker on SingleStore, and they're a photo processing and delivery tool, and so what's happening in the warehouse, which orders have been fulfilled right now, that is that's a critical question, and the people on the warehouse floor are using Looker on to answer that question. But also they need to be planning and saying, do we need to hire more temporary workers because we're coming into our our high season? It's the summer, it's the fall, people are taking more photos of their kids outside. Do we need to be able to sort of make changes to our operations and our strategy using that data? So I think really it is about bringing those two kinds of data together, because that's what allows you to make better decisions.
Great. I mean, Guy, anything you can add to that? Add a little color?
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen over the past few years this transition from disparate data sources into a large data store, a single data store that contains all the data in one place and one location. Now, that data in its own right is practically meaningless. You derive insights out of it and deliver insights in a timely manner to every part of the organization. Being able to infuse analytics everywhere and deliver the message to every part in the organization is a combo of being able to derive those insights in a timely manner from that single data store, this single store that is able to process vast amount of data, complex data, in a very timely manner. Absolutely.
I wonder, Anthony, if you could address some of the problems that this solves for customers. I mean, from your point of view, but as well as from the partnerships and the whole SingleStore discussion that we were having.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of thoughts. Well, you mean, one, what we're able to do with our technology and bring it to what we do with SingleStore is, one, we're able to bridge the modern and the legacy systems that are out there. We speak about these disparate data sources, and they're growing. We know data volumes, especially this year, people on this massive drive to digital transformation. So one, we can bridge that, bring the modern and the legacy, where that data is generated, and bring it together. And ultimately, it's just helping customers gain competitive advantages on their data. As we've pointed out already here, that they need to make decisions on data that's not a week old, not even a day old. It's hours old type data. And so those advantages are, one, internal, obviously external, but then internal, operational efficiencies, inventory management, and then there's also that are more external. And that comes together in someone like a customer. We have a joint customer together, a big telco in the Middle East, where they are building this transformational data warehouse, this transformational platform of replacing these legacy data warehouses and bringing that together into a more transformational one that is also building a self-service platform as well for the customers. So we're seeing a lot of that type of forward thinking from customers. I think these are the biggest companies in the world, and we have another one together, which is a massive manufacturing company doing the similar things.
Thank you for that, Anthony. So, I mean, I wonder, Daniel, if you could chime in. I mean, maybe you can't name the name, but if you can, great. But any other, your favorite customer story? I know you love them all, but
we love them equally. Yeah, I mean, I think to Anthony's point about companies figuring out that the data that they have is enormously valuable, not just for their own employees, but also for the relationships that they have with their partners, their suppliers, their customers, and the ability to embed that data in that they're giving customers access to. So, a great example there is Collective, real-time media streaming analytics platform, and so they're using Looker to build a tool on top of SingleStore that all of their customers can access to see, how are their videos performing in real time. And so, that ability to feed that data back to their customers, and where they're able to make customizations on the fly for their customers, just as they ask, without having to devote engineering hours to doing that, I think is a huge let them. It's really, streamlined their costs and created this whole new value chain in terms of giving their customers, that real-time access, but also giving their customers exactly the view into the data that they're, because reality is, each customer's needs are slightly different. And if all you're offering is, one equal off-the-shelf solution, that's fine for some people, but really inadequate for others. And so the ability to customize that also means that you can, start to charge for premium services. Yes, we'll give you access to more of the data. Yes, we'll let you do more ad hoc analysis, but that's going to be, something that you pay for.
Great, thank you. And Guy, I don't want to cut you out of the customer conversation. I've got other questions for you, but if you want to share a story or a perspective, that would be great.
So we found great success working with SingleStore, with financial services organizations, very large ones that need the high regulation and the ability to handle complex data stores. I cannot name names, but I will say those are the Fortune 50 players that are deploying Sisense on top of SingleStore and leveraging the capability to analyze data super fast, and at the same time derive those insights and infuse the entire environment with those insights coming out of SingleStore.
So, Guy, we'll stay on you for a minute. I wonder if you can help us understand the go-to-market strategy, what markets you're targeting with SingleStore, and maybe that varies by the different partners. But maybe start with you, Guy.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sisense is a horizontal play. We don't specialize in one single vertical, but we've seen significant success in technology, in financial services, healthcare, manufacturing. Those are the big ones that cover about, I'd say, half, more or less, of our markets. In many of those cases, or those markets, what we see customers do is migrate into cloud data warehouses, or very large data stores and single store like architectures. And that's where Sisense is able to create a very strong semantic layer on top of those large warehouses and deliver a querying capability directly in source, directly at the source, directly in the case of SingleStore, directly on their technology and architecture to deliver value right away. There's no need any longer, and this need has been diminishing for years now, to develop a process. There's no need to bring in the data. There's no need to do any build. You run live, you get the results way, you get the understanding immediately, and which is extremely critical for a financial services markets, for example, where data needs to be timely, needs to be correct, and now.
Right, and now, Anthony, you've got a lot of activity going on-prem where people might want to do a cloud migration, and they might call on you to say, hey, can you help us, get into the cloud? So, I mean, I wonder how that affects your go-to-market with SingleStore.
Absolutely. So we're industry agnostic. We focused on, the biggest enterprises of the world, capturing that data that today is typically generated on-prem, and then moving it to a target system that typically sits in the cloud. And we've got a few customers that we do that together with SingleStore. So we're seeing, that is a massive uptick in that, particularly for some customers that we have, GE, where it's big volumes of data, moving that into a very powerful analytical platform such as SingleStore. And that's where we've seen a lot of traction around that, industry agnostic, global, and that's where we see a lot of that uptick with that type of data and those type of companies adopting that data is generated on-prem, use our proprietary CDC techniques that we have, combined with some compression security built into it, moving it the most efficient way across these networks into SingleStore.
Now, Daniel, I would imagine your go-to-market was changed slightly when you became part of Google Cloud Platform, but maybe you could give us your perspectives on this topic.
Yeah, I mean, you'd actually be surprised it hasn't changed that much. Fundamentally, I think Google Cloud and Looker both fundamentally value bringing value to their customers. There's just nothing that makes either of us happier than seeing customers succeed. For us with data, for Google Cloud at large, sort of with whatever cloud technology they're using. And so I think that's a big part of why Google Cloud decided to acquire Looker. But I think what we have seen is more and more demand for the enterprise to not just provide sort of standard BI reporting, right? There's nothing wrong with dashboards and reports. They are very valuable. They have proved their value for a long time. But I think what we're seeing more and more of the ability to insight right into the tools that people are already using. That's really the force multiplier, right? That's the thing that takes it from your data reaching tens or hundreds of people in your enterprise to reaching thousands or hundreds of thousands. We actually have a customer that is using Looker to reach more than 100 million customers, right? And so that ability to actually deliver insight right into the tools that people are using, it really cuts down on the friction, and it makes it much likelier that people are actually going to use the data rather than saying, oh yeah, no, I know there's that new tool I'm supposed to learn, but I just haven't had time to figure it out. Whereas if they're right there in Slack and an alert pings them, right, because SingleStore, because of its ability to keep up to the second data, right, says something's wrong with the website, sales have dropped precipitously in the last 5 minutes, anomaly detection notes that and pings Slack and says, hey, you might want to take a look. That's the kind of thing that saves huge amounts of money, because you can fix a problem right when it happens rather than only finding out that it happened the next day.
Well, it's interesting you say it actually didn't change that much with being part of Google Cloud, and I want to touch on multi-cloud. Google Cloud Platform obviously open to cross-cloud. Some folks maybe not so much, but clearly Looker and Google are. But multi-cloud, edge, real-time analytics, AI inferencing, these are some of the big waves that we see coming in the 2020s. Daniel, stay on you for a moment. I mean, how real are some of those things? How important are they in the coming decade? Maybe you could address that.
Yeah, I mean, well, specifically on the open point, I don't think there's any question, right? The idea that that enterprises are going to, move from on-premise to exclusively one cloud, and that is the only cloud they are ever going to use, is just not ever going to happen. That's not the reality. And so what we're seeing more and more is both, sort of a hybrid on-premise cloud environment. The enterprise is in the process of moving, maybe even includes that they keep on-premise for good, but certainly, having one straddling and having one foot in each camp is pretty normal. But then also investing in multiple clouds, right? That's just that's become the norm, and we see it, over and over. We expect it to accelerate, and that's why, both Looker, which has had a sort of open mentality since the very beginning, we connect to 60 different dialects of database, and want to be able to take best advantage of each of their specific features. So that's been core to our philosophy from the beginning, but also Google Cloud with, investments like Anthos, allowing you to write software once and run it anywhere. The recent announcement about BigQuery Omni, the ability to actually run BigQuery, their, Google Cloud's, enterprise data warehouse, run it in Google Cloud, obviously, but also run it in Azure or in AWS. So that commitment to a world of multi-cloud goes really deep at Google Cloud and, and specifically at Looker.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that. And then Guy, I wonder if you could weigh in on all the sort of hot trends, whether it's multi-cloud and some of the things I talked about real-time analytics or near real-time, your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, regarding the multi-cloud, it's great to hear Daniel from Look about now Google speak about, being truly equal in terms of how all those clouds are there. Sisense is truly the last remaining independent player of the third wave out there, and truly are cloud agnostic in that respect. That also gives us the ability to keep an eye out for every new innovation that's happening out there, be that on Azure, AWS, Snowflake, or SingleStore. And what we see is tremendous push and tremendous innovation across the board. There's no cloud service provider that actually owns that innovation, that really is able to deliver all the smartness. I always say the smartest engineers don't work, they work for someone else. They're able to into that wisdom across the board, and shows us this vast amount of possibilities where analytics gets pushed to the edge, where you see computation at the edge, where you see the need to push and infuse analytics everywhere, where you see IoT becoming a reality. Everyone kept talking about IoT decade, and now we look around and it's here already. On my table, on my desk here, I've got multiple IoT devices. And so being to query the center, query at the edge, being able to push data throughout is a key element. And Sisense is, happy to play that.
I love the Bill Joy reference. That's awesome. Anthony, we got like 30 seconds left. Bring us home. Give us the bumper sticker on this segment, please.
To us, it's absolutely about multi-cloud. Gartner will tell you, 80% of companies are having a multi-cloud strategy. We have the ability to capture that data from various sources and deliver it to any of these clouds, and all of them totally agnostic in that. And that's what we see with the customers. It's about a multi-cloud strategy, absolutely, and they want to have choice and choose either the best compute platform, the best infrastructure, best networking. So that's the key driver for us.
Thank you for that, guys. We've got to leave it there. Thank you so much. And thank you for watching Revolution 2020. This is Dave Vellante for theCUBE. Keep it right there.